I'm going to join the meeting. Adam shouldn't be doing stuff for him. Adam is treading a really thin line there, I reckon. Mm.
He came to do IT yesterday. CFA meeting, they ran.
All good, thank you. Welcome everyone to the December meeting of the West Wimmera Shire Council. It's good to see a few people here with us today. To begin with, if we could all please stand. David, if you can please read the acknowledgement and the prayer.
The West Wimmera Shire Council acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and pays respect to elders past, present and emerging. Let us pray. Almighty God, we humbly ask your blessing upon this council. Guide and prosper our decisions to the advancement of your glory and the true welfare of the people of West Wimmera Shire. Amen.
Amen. Some 4.1 apologies. Do we have any apologies?
Mr. Mayor.
Do we have any leave of absence? Are there any declarations of conflicts of interest from any items on the agenda? If not, we'll move on to item 5. 5.1, written questions on notice. Have we received any written questions?
No questions.
5.2, questions without notice.
I'm happy to move that we suspend standing orders.
That is so moved. Seconded by Councillor Pretlove. Put that to the vote. All in favour? That is carried. So we have suspended standing orders to take questions from the gallery. I know a few of you have been through this a few times already, but just to remind everyone, you may ask 2 questions. And it is simply, it's not here to have a debate. It's simply to ask a question and we will either provide an answer or we'll tell you we'll get back to you. That's all there is to it. There's a few things that we aren't allowed to discuss. There's a whole list of things. I'm sure you can imagine. I'll let you know if we get across one. And again, we just want this to be respectful and, you know, this is a privilege. We're actually stopping our council meeting to actually hear from the public. So please don't abuse that. Right, we'll just go over to you then. Who has a question? Jeff, if you could just state your name and where you're from as well, please. For the
My
minutes.
name's Jeff Langsworth. I live in Edenhope. Just here to ask a question on 2 questions on my own behalf. So first question is, on the 7th of November 2024, so it's 13 months ago, I wrote a letter to the council. It was addressed to James Bentley. It was about neighbourhood houses. I wrote asking if there was any possibility that a neighbourhood house could be established in Edenhope, because there's one in Harrow and there's one in Coniva, but there's none in Edenhope, and I was curious to ask why there wasn't one and could it be established. So my request was acknowledged by the Innovative Platform in November 2024. Since then I haven't had a single reply. Just disappointing.
It is disappointing. We are frustrated by that, and we do hear that from the community. I believe we are trying to improve our processes so that people do get the responses. Again, it is something we do hear way too often, unfortunately. And you're not going to like my answer, but I'm going to say we'll take that on notice. Thanks, Jeff. Just to get a proper response to you anyway.
I was under the impression this one was closed out actually, but
Yeah.
we can.
Okay.
take it
Well,
on
if
notice.
somebody could please provide a response to Jeff, that'd be appreciated. Thank you. Yep.
One more question, if I may.
Yep.
This is a long, drawn out saga, I would put it, would be the hub, as I call it, but it's a community centre here in Edenhope. Part of the original agreement was, with the advisory committee, was that there would be a donors board established in the hall. Now, I have had response from Aaron Shelders.
Yeah.
He has been in contact with me. October. I think he might have picked this up after James Bentley may have left, and he said that he sent me a donation plaque proof. There are 2 copies. I would like to suggest that the names are blah, 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 blah. His last contact with me, 28th of October, was apologies for delaying this. We will get this order, which is the board, and hopefully have the plaque erected prior to the end of the year. So it's been going on for quite a long time. I just think we should do our best to get it finished, because a lot of people contributed money, and I think it's in respect to all those people. I think it would be nice to have an acknowledgement on display in the hall.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and you know, we are thankful for those who did contribute. I know we had a delay on installing it because there was still more money that was to be found.
16,000.
Yeah, so there was the opportunity for other people to get their name on the board before we installed it. I think perhaps we have gone past that point now, and I think this is something we should consider.
We'll take it on notice.
Yeah, but we'll provide a response on what we're going to do. I think, Jeff. I think we'll have to have a bit of discussion amongst ourselves on that
Aaron
one.
seemed to have the matter under control. It's just I'm just trying to get it finalised.
Yeah. No.
It's possible.
No, and you'll notice the major donors have certainly had the rooms named after them and things like that. So I think everybody else perhaps deserves some acknowledgement as well. Yep. Are there any further questions? Yes, Alan.
Councillor Dickerson, I would like, in the previous meetings that we've been present on, we've asked questions have been taken on board and we're going to respond to us. So far, we've had no response. Are you likely to respond?
I believe if we do take a question on notice, our direction is to provide a response. So I'm surprised on that. If
We've
you
been on several occasions, 2 or 3 occasions, and asked questions, and there's been a response.
if the response was given from the chair that day, then that is the response. But if I said that we will provide a response, then a response should have been forthcoming.
Yes.
Maybe if you leave a contact details with the secretariat here, and we can that might help assist in providing a response.
Gary,
Yeah. Okay.
none of us received any response at all.
Can you remind me what were the topics?
In regard to Lolly Galambos and the issue with his permit for a house. That's what it's about.
Is there any further questions? If there's no further questions, if anyone prepared to resume standing orders, moved by Councillor Hicks, seconded by Councillor Fretlove. Put that to the vote. All in favour? That is carried. Item 6 is our delegates report. Again, I've had quite a busy month. Probably a few here are really worth highlighting, I think, for the council group. And the main one is the regional and local government agency workshop that we had in Coleraine. I think that was actually quite an eye-opener. It was a meeting between local government and other government agencies regarding the future of renewable energies and transmissions within our region. We know we have a very small part that's been declared a renewable energy zone within our shire. And they pretty much have just sort of come along and they're trying to just find out how they can actually smooth things over and consult with the community a lot better. Frankly, some of the discussions I think we had with some of the team were perhaps somewhat disappointing. I don't think they actually have any understanding of what the local community's issues are. I don't think they quite understand the neglect that the rural communities have been left in for the last 10 years under this government, and then to have this thrown on top of them, understanding why on earth they are so upset, it's beyond them. And these people are generally just engineers. They're not out there dealing with the community on a day-to-day basis. Their job is to build things, and to have this thrown onto their lap, I think was pretty disappointing from the government as well. But you can see they are at least making some attempt. But if you're going to talk to the community, I would say you don't talk to 10 different government agencies and a couple of local government reps. You need to be talking to the community. So again, that is going to be a space that we should be watching. Another one here was just a moment ago. We had a citizenship ceremony where we had 5 new citizens who are all living here within our shire, and we welcome them and we thank them for choosing to be a part of our community, and we really do wish them all the best. They are very, very joyous events, and we really do enjoy seeing these people come to our communities, and we really do enjoy seeing them prosper and thrive. And so we wish them all the best. The rest we can take as read. Councillor Hobbs.
Yep. So as read, also been very busy. I did do had the Kaniva late night shopping thing that happened. It's disappointing to see Little Guy's Pizza Cafe closing, but at the same time we had Little Desert Quilts grand opening, and that shop is amazing. That's going to create demand for accommodation and food too when workshops resume. The Puppet Shop lights look absolutely unbelievable. She launched that, and the Lane 36 had their first birthday. I did have a call from James from Tesla because the EV charging station at the commercial hotel is nearly finished, and it's all working. And he just rang to say thank you very much to the team at West Wimmera for putting all of that through. But it is also disappointing to see those graffitis going on the public toilets. Other point that I thought would be worth making, it is a bit of a shout out to the local laws officer, because it is good to see that we've got a number of property owners that have now been issued with cleanup orders, particularly as we're heading into fire seasons. So yes, some of those properties, particularly the abandoned ones, are an absolute disgrace, and they do pose a risk for the community. I've done quite a bit of trips around the area. Christmas town decorating looks amazing. The Harrow looks fantastic. Absolutely, that pallet idea that they've got going, where they're asking and encouraging families to get involved. They all decorate a pallet and then they put the farm ones up along the Lions Park. Eden Hope pallets, which I believe was done by Alan and the Eden Hope tourism team, doing the Christmas trees and the bows. And the point is that those sort of efforts send that message to the visitors for the holidays. It communicates that message that these communities exist and they care about their towns. I'm also looking forward to seeing the early bird open up in Eden Hope. I also went to the carols at Serviceton on Sunday. We've got Kaniva Carols Friday. Went to the Kaniva College presentation night with yourself last night. 16 days of activism. I just thought I might talk about that because I did attend all 3 of them. The guest speaker for Goroke travelled 2.5 hours and there was no one attending other than the police and the presenters. 3 residents went to the Eden Hope one and there were 16 attendees in Kaniva plus staff and police. And just thank you to Andrew North too, because he attended all 3 sessions. Also Melissa Morris, Amanda Munn. It is good to see the Orange Door is now going to operate from the Kaniva Neighbourhood House. And on that also too, the Christmas hamper thing that they've got going. 44 Christmas hampers were distributed. It's a partnership between 5 groups: Kaniva Food Bank, Kaniva Neighbourhood House, Kaniva Op Shop, Lions Club, Community Church. There's no government funding in that other than the central participation that's supplied the fresh fruit and veggies, but they were wellbeing packages. So they particularly looked for communities with limited family support, new residents and those living alone. I also attended as a delegated rep the Kaniva Community Sporting Complex AGM. I attended an AI webinar with the strategy group that was focused on local government, and then particularly with Google AI. You know, it's here whether we want it or not, but just some takeaway thoughts. It's absolutely imperative that all general websites are up to date because that's where it's drawing its information from. There are huge productivity gains to be made using AI, even if it's just like the whole spell check and grammar tools. So yes, it can lift the quality of reports when the right prompts are used, but there is a danger of AI slop, which is poor quality content created where there's low reading comprehension, no local knowledge and no fact checking against reliable sources. Councillor catch-ups, I did 25 all up for the whole of the year in both the north and south of Kaniva, and they are going very well, plus sessions in Goroke, Apsley and Harrow. The consistent theme from these conversations is the concern about state government debt, a strong desire to return to basics, roads and rubbish, and a lot of the items are customer action requests. And then the Snap Send Solve app, which I've used for a few of them, I think that's really worth pursuing. And I am going to the UK for Christmas. However, you are welcome to contact me via WhatsApp, Teams, Zoom, Messenger. I'm only going to be at my mum's house. It's not a holiday.
Thank you, Councillor Hobbs, and we hope you have a safe travel. Councillor Hicks.
Well, I must say, Councillor Hobbs, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I must say, Councillor Hobbs, I'm exhausted from listening to what you did, let alone having to do all those things. So well done. I've not been nearly as busy as some others, but just for the record, the Western Higher Action Committee meeting on the 21st of November was postponed to the 5th of December, which I was unable to participate, in which I was unable to participate. I was sort of pretending I was a farmer on that day, which was an experience for me because I'm not very much of a farmer. I also went to 2 of the 16 days of activism sessions. It's pretty disappointing, I think, when a topic that is so important as is covered at those meetings is not well received and not well supported by the community. I'm not sure how we get more community involvement. You know, and it's not the first time we've run these sessions. We seem to get the people who perhaps are the ones who, no, I'll do it the other way. We probably don't get the people to attend who might benefit the most from those activities. And I'm not sure how we do that unless perhaps we run it in the future as a session at the football club one night with the football netball teams all together, involve a lot of the younger communities when they're gathering. I'm not sure, but I think the whole concept needs to be a little more, it needs to be assessed and analysed a bit more in depth to try and maximise the impact. I did attend the Caniva Schools presentation night last night and gave the Citizenship Award, which is a joint award by the West Wimmera Shire Council and was started by my father back in 1963. So I was very pleased to be able to give the award sort of on his behalf. Otherwise, I'm looking forward to Christmas, New Year, and wish everyone in the Shire a happy festive season, a safe year to finish, and a very prosperous and safe 2023. And I guess I'll be back in one of these chambers early in February for forum and mid-February for our next council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Hicks. Councillor Pretloff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As read, however, I just want to touch on the Audit and Risk Committee meeting, which was on last Tuesday. I think it's really positive to, I guess the committee or the group is made up of independent members, and it's just really positive to hear from both internal, external auditors and the members that they're really impressed, and it's comforting that our financial position is quite stable. They're really commending our staff with the reporting and just feeling like that we're really demonstrating that we're really on track and in a good position. So I think that's always pleasing to get reports like that. As Tim mentioned, congratulations to our new 5 citizens in West Wimmera. It's really nice that they're happy to make Australia their home, and even better to be here in West Wimmera. Probably what I hear so much of, and particularly at the moment, and I have been liaising with David, is our local roads through really in the middle of the Shire. That's where I get all of my feedback, particularly at the moment with harvest. And I know that it's in the pipeline. There is action happening. We've seen, a few around, but our roads really are in poor condition, particularly some of the limestone and gravel roads. So it's not going to be real good for these truck drivers. I know, they're really, things are quite messy, but I know that it's in the pipeline. So I hope that we can get them back to the condition that we'd like to see them. Thank you. That's all from me.
Thank you, Councillor.
Merry Christmas to everybody.
Thank you, Councillor Pretloff. Councillor Houlihan.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to start off by congratulating and praising the volunteers of our town who have made decorations and also put them up. I think it's a credit to our towns. I just see the amount of work. It's not something that you do overnight. Some of the preparation has been taken. I'm going to suggest to you, with the amount that's been put into, say, making the trees here in the main street, that's been done by volunteers over the last 6 months. I don't know, I could be wrong, but there's a lot of work involved. So well done to our volunteers with the Christmas decorations. last night, I was at the Goroke College Awards night. The night was extremely well supported by students, parents, grandparents, and supporters of the college. It's a great night, and just the amount of people that were there and the interest that was shown in the college was, especially when you get up on the stage. Obviously, I did the West Wimmera Shire Citizenship Award. You get up on the stage and you look out. I'd like to know how many people were there, but the seats were taken up, and then they were standing up at the doorway. So it's a brilliant night, actually, for Goroke and their college. On the 3rd of the 12th, I attended a meeting at Canaiva where I tried to express some personal opinions, but still can't believe what was going on. In fact, it was abuse that was going on. So I just warn people that I have spoken with the Shire CEO and I have been to the police. I don't have to put up with that rubbish. Furthermore, I won't. So the people that were involved in that, the person that was involved in that, I will be watching to see what his reaction is to this statement. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Houlihan. 7, condolences. We have no condolences. Number 8.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, but just maybe for me just to make a comment to what Councillor Houlihan say. I don't believe abuse is the right word, but I'm happy to have further discussions about this.
Item 8, confirmation of the previous minutes. We have items 8.1, 8.2, 8.3 plus 8.4. If someone's
Happy to move all 4 and move things along.
all 4 moved on log. Anyone prepared to second that? Seconded by Councillor Pretwell. No discussion required. We'll put it to the vote. All in favour? Those against? Abstaining? That is carried. Item 9, business arising. We have no business arising. Item 10, we have no notice of motion. Item 11, the councillor forum record from November the 5th.
Go on, Jody, you're next.
Moved by Councillor Pretlow,
Number 2.
seconded by Councillor Hicks. No discussion required. We'll put that to the vote. All in favour? That is carried. Deputations and petitions. We have none. We have no CEO report. We move to item 14.1, the geographic naming policy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So today we are presenting the geographic naming policy for council's review. This is part of our cyclical review of this policy. The geographical naming policy is a high-level document that provides guidance for council to undertake the process for renaming of areas and roads, and it kind of helps us meet our statutory and regulatory requirements. The updates to the policy are quite minor, some wording, some grammatical changes. In essence, the information held within the policy is relatively consistent with the previous version.
Thank you, Director Burns. Does anyone have any questions on this?
I'm happy to move the opposite recommendations.
As moved. Is anyone prepared to second? Second by Councillor Houlihan. Does the mover wish to speak at all?
No, not really. I think it's just a clean up of the previous policy, and I thank all involved for pushing this through.
Second wish to speak?
Just thank you to the staff for catching up again. Giving us the opportunity.
Anyone else? If not, put it to the vote. All in favour? That is carried. 8.2, the Audit and Risk Committee meeting minutes from September the 16th, 2025.
I'm happy to move them, but unless there's any questions.
If there's no questions, we have someone has moved the officer recommendation.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Hicks. Is there no speak
Yeah,
to it?
look, I'm on that committee and I did read them a couple of weeks ago and I was happy with those minutes, even though we've had a meeting since. It's hard to, yeah, anyway, when you go back. But no, happy to move those. Thank you.
Second, wish to speak?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment. I don't attend the Audit and Risk Committee meetings, but as Councillor Pretlow has said, we certainly appreciate the diversity and the professionalism, the quality of the people who are on that committee, who help advise us, who pass a very professional eye over our books, and I'm sure give all staff support when it comes to the budgets, to the expenditures and things like that. And I think we often don't appreciate their input into what makes our council tick and what keeps our books on the right side of the Auditor General and his colleague. I'll try and not call them anything else, but we do appreciate their work. We appreciate the input that the Mayor and Councillor Pretlow have done over many years onto that committee, and the minutes are always interesting reading, but it's more that we appreciate the effort that goes in to keeping us on the right track financially. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Just to support what Councillor Hicks has just said, it really is a high level meeting, and given our circumstances in the last 12 months and, you know, particularly around the federal grants money, it's really put us in a bit of a position where we've had to really tighten things up and really report regularly, and to hear, I suppose, the what's the word, the support and the confidence in those auditors that are there, that are, you know, regularly, you know, just picking whether it's risk or just general management that, you know, deep dives are going into. It's really comforting to think we've got good staff in this area and they're doing a great job, and we thank them, and obviously they're a pleasure to work with, and all the right reporting and everything that's been asked for externally and is all being met, and so it gives me a lot of confidence, and I think we can have a lot of confidence that we've, you know, got a sound position and it's being monitored really, really well. So yeah, like I say, it's pleasing to be involved in and to hear. Thank you.
Okay, we'll put that to the vote. All in favour? That is carried. 14.3, the quarterly budget report and annual plan updates, Q1.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. We are presenting our finance report for the Q1. Just a quick overview and then I'll open for questions. But we're tracking along okay at the moment. Our expenditure remains relatively well contained. We are under budget in a few areas, albeit this is probably early on in the piece prior to any significant capital and capital maintenance programs, and road maintenance programs as well, where we tend to see large increase in expenditure, particularly around materials for roads and that are classified as maintenance. We are behind in our financial assistance grants. So financial assistance grants is probably our most significant income line. we anticipate 12-month collection evenly across the year. Councillors will know this, but the public may not, is that we received a large upfront payment in June, so in last financial year, and we're obligated by our auditors to recognise that money upfront, which has meant that at the moment, this financial year, we're well behind in terms of receiving our cash per budget. We are anticipating that we will receive a large payment at the end of this year for the next financial year, but in the past, those funds haven't been consistent in the way they've been received, which has really caused us headaches as a finance team to kind of...
That's why you've got no hair.
Yes, to maintain sort of our financial viability, and that is one of the big issues at the moment with our finances. So providing the consistency remains going forward, it's certainly something that we can manage to. The last point that's worth noting is at the moment, in terms of our financial reporting, we are behind in our capital program. We are working on, and what we have is a misalignment between the finance reporting and the actual work being done. So Brendan assures me that the capital program is trending well and continuing to work. What we have is making sure that we continue to report those finances correctly. So that's plant allocation and time allocation to our capital program rather than to our operating accounts. So we're maintaining our vigilance and oversight over that to try and rectify that or making sure that we report it correctly.
Are there any questions on this report?
I'm happy to move the officer recommendation that the council receive a note of the quarterly budget report and annual plan update for Q1 ending 30 September 2025.
Councillor Pratt, you're seconding?
Yep.
Mr. Moore, wish to speak?
Just briefly, Mr. Mayor, Dalton, many thanks to you and your team for preparing the reports. I dare say an onerous task, but an essential one, and we must keep on the right side of the bean counters higher up the chain. It's a great job, and you've got it to us in a timely manner, and we appreciate that. Certainly, the FAGS money has created headaches, and it seems to be an annual event in June when we may or may not, perhaps, could, should, might not get the money. And it must cause you enormous mental manipulations to try and get everything in line. And we appreciate those efforts of you and your team. And, thanks for presenting the report, as I said, in a timely manner. Would be nice if we had a little less red and a fair bit more black, but it's a bit like running a farm, really. Don't understand what black is.
Second, I wish to speak.
Just support Councillor Hicks's comments, and I too would like to thank Dalton and Jason for their work and the team behind you. It's a tough one, but I think it's always going to be tough because us at West Wimmera rely so heavily on external funding. So it's the way it is. It doesn't change when we have rate capping at a certain level, and and then a lot of other things go up with CPI. So at the end of the day, this is always going to be a really challenging area for West Wimmera. I've said a lot of times before that prior to being on council, the rates were continually going up at a lot higher percent before rate capping. I remember it was back then asking our finance team, that was Ashley, they were anywhere between 9.7% and 5.5% for the previous 5 years that I was on council. Since I've been on council, they have been capped. The highest has been at 3.5 and it's been back near 2, I'm pretty sure 2%. So it doesn't make sense. The state government make it difficult for us in this area. We cannot raise, not that I really am in favour of rates going up, but I'm very aware that West Wimmera's rates are cheaper than a lot of our neighbouring rates. So it's a balancing act and you guys are doing well. And we've just got to continue to try and extract as much money as we can to make it all work. Thank you.
Councillor Hoy.
Just like to support the previous two speakers, councillors. Congratulations to Dalton and his staff. Well done.
Anyone else wish to speak? I will just say in support of what's already been said here, it is really good work that's actually been done, both in terms of completing and moving, progressing things on with the annual plan, but the real highlight is where we sit with the budget. And again, I think probably the one thing that really highlights this is that after the stress test the government decided to put us through, and we figured we were going to have to take out a loan to sort of cover ourselves, we've only had to borrow $2 million, and we currently have sitting in a term deposit earning us more money in interest than what we actually are borrowing the money at. So again, financially that we aren't in a bad position, but I don't want people to get the idea that we've now got money to burn. We need to be building our reserves and putting ourselves in a sound financial position still. So just everyone's got to be mindful of that. I don't want people to think, oh, look at this, there's a line on the budget here where there's cash just sitting in the bank. That is not how it works. That is something we've all got to be mindful of. Yeah, okay. Does the mover wish to sum up?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Put it to the vote then. All in favour? That is carried. We'll move to item 14.4, the sponsorship and contributions grant application for the Henley and Lake Wallace.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So we've received an application under a sponsorship and contribution grant application process, and that is for the event Henley on Lake Wallace, and that's for the maximum of $1,200 sponsorship application. I'm sure everyone's aware of the event. Is there any questions?
Are there any questions, Councillor Bretlock?
Is there anything in particular that this is being applied for?
So they're applying for both financial, the full amount of the $1,200, and an in-kind support. Also, that's why they applied for the community sponsorship and contribution grant. That's the only way they can apply for both at the same time.
Did they? Sorry, earmarked what the funds are for, I think is the question.
No, I don't think they, under the guidelines, I don't think they have to. I think it's just, well, there is things in here, but I don't think they have to in the actual grant guidelines.
Just the general running of the...
Yeah, they meet the eligibility,
So when they come to the acquittal, they'll have to show that they've spent this money on eligible.
Correct. Yeah, they have to meet the guidelines.
Yeah, okay.
Now, it is in our grant guidelines that anyone who applies for this can only use the funds that we have available in the budget. How much money do we have left in the budget for this item?
That's a good question. I don't know the exact number, but in all of our reports and updates, there's been enough money. But I don't know exactly.
There's sufficient funds.
Yeah, there is.
It's amount. Yeah.
I think there was a summary in
It was close to
forum.
We've had the summary at the
Yeah,
forum.
at forum there was nearly 23.
That's the amounts.
Didn't actually total it, just,
That's
you think it's that
issue.
20,000,
Yeah.
that's one you've issued.
That would be a cost as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not in this particular.
but we have a line item on the budget, and the grant policy says that we can only give out money until the money's all gone. So I'm just working out how much money is left in that pot. That's
Yeah,
all.
I don't know the exact number. I'd have to probably go
But
and do
you
some,
are
but there is,
certain-
I'm certain there's.
You're certain we have sufficient funds.
Yes.
Okay.
He'll pay the deficit.
Take it in flesh.
I'm happy to move the officer recommendations.
Seconded by Councillor Houlihan. Does the mover wish to speak?
Yeah, I think it's a really important event, and as we've previously discussed, it's sort of almost in line with some of the shows that we have around the district. This event has been running, as we know, for more than 100 years. It's always a great community event for both Edenhope and the communities surrounding it, and from people who take the opportunity to come back and visit Edenhope. I think it's also important too, the sort of at the end of harvest, people sort of can relax, have had their holidays and come back and celebrate the end of that year and look forward to the forthcoming farming season with some optimism, hopefully. And just as a great little get together. It's always well attended, and I think it's great that council supports these activities. We obviously can't support every single event that might be organised throughout the Shire, but I think this one is important for us to support in that it's a major event for Eden Hope and District, and it also has a lot of people attending. I think, most years there's certainly several hundred that attend, and it's great that council can provide some support money to make sure the event is successful. So I'm very happy to move the recommendation.
Councillor Hawaiian, you wish to speak?
Yes, please. I've been coming to Henley for 60-odd years. I think grants like this are the ones that make it possible for volunteers to run events like this. And I believe Henley on Lake Wallace is one of those events that should be able to get a grant such as this. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Hobbs?
I think what I really like about this particular event is that we often talk about demonstrated community partnerships. The fact that every single organisation is able to participate is brilliant. So just for that, the inclusivity, I think, is very, very good. The flow-on effects for all events, including this one, and the broader economic benefit is, that's why we do events. But it would be good to be able to see in these acquittals the fact that we are seeing, well, exactly, how much is that event costing? How much labour is being put into it? And, what are the, what is the expected economic benefit from the accommodation and hospitality? And I don't know whether you can access, that MasterCard type funding. You can get those sort of reports done. But very, very happy to support it.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Am I too late for a question?
No, you may ask a question at one of the debate commences.
On our guidelines, just correct me, I'm not sure, do we actually stipulate that, say, on a program or something, that our logo would be used?
We absolutely do.
Yeah.
They must acknowledge us.
Yeah, good. Right, that's right. I thought that would be the case.
Yeah, I think it's important that we get
Yes.
that.
Yeah. Right, thank you.
So I do have another question then. We are satisfied they have a satisfactory level of public liability insurance?
Yes, we've received a copy of their certificate of currency for the public liability insurance.
Thank you. Does the mover wish to sum up?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
To the vote then, all in favour? That is carried.
There might be other policies.
15.1, planning permit application PA 1209.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a planning application for development on land known as lots 6, 7 and 8, Blair Street, Harrow. And the development is for a dwelling and carrying out of works for a fill pad. That particular lot is impacted by 2 overlays under the planning scheme. One is the land subject to inundation overlay. One is the bushfire overlay. They are the triggering factors resulting in this having to come to council for planning permit. There is a recommendation to issue a notice of decision to refuse based on 9 grounds of refusal. There is a very detailed and comprehensive report that council has been presented with. The planning team are available online if you have questions. And I'll hand it over to council to determine the matter.
Are there any questions? Councillor Hobbs?
Just wanting to clarify, just the background, is this correct with the CMA, that the Rocklands Reservoir was built in 1953 by the State Rivers and Water Supply Commission and managed by them until 1984. and that the purpose was to provide water to the Wimmera Mallee Channel system, that they were disbanded in 1984 and replaced by the Rural Water Commission of Victoria in 2004, following the amalgamations of local water boards and the disbandment of the Rural Water Commission. GWM Water was created and took over management of the Rocklands Reservoir amongst a number of water assets that they manage in the region, and that catchment management authorities were created in 1994 with the Glen Hopkins CMA created in 1997, and that their purpose is to provide the management of river catchment areas, including waterways and floodplains, that they have a statutory obligation under the Water Act of 1984 to provide advice to councils on planning matters along with flooding data, and they also have an obligation as the Floodplain Management Authority to protect communities and properties. Is that correct?
Mr. Mayor, yeah, I don't think it would be a fair question for any staff member to be on top of sort of exactly all those dates. That's something that we will have to take on notice just to verify the correctness of all those dates. But certainly, I think the last part about CMA being a relevant sort of authority, I think that.
Can you read that last bit out, please?
If you just read the last sentence again, please.
That they have an obligation as a floodplain management authority to protect communities and properties.
That's correct, yeah. I believe that is correct.
Councillor Hobbs.
So just wondering, do you know, whoever, the planning team, or do you agree that this case that has now been, he actually came, the original inquiry was in 2022 and it's been now 3 years. Do you agree that has involved absolutely hours of work in an under-resourced council, and that it has been stressful for both councillors, council staff, the Harrow community and the applicant? Do you think that's a fair statement?
I don't think that's a question that I can answer. This application came to council, and correct me if Nicole knows the date, at about August this year. This is a second application for a development on the same lot. The first one was refused.
Yes.
I think asking officers to make judgment calls on it in that sort of sense, I don't think it's fair. So
No,
I don't think we can ask those sort of questions.
So just on that though, the thing with it is the applicant did first contact council in 2022. Then the application was submitted, as you said, with it was at a house on stilts and it was refused at this meeting. And then we actually did say that we might consider it in another form. That was the impression that I'm under, and that's what just for the people watching, that's the background to like why it's back on the cards again today.
I'll answer that. That planning applications are driven by the applicant. So we can give them advice on the process. We can't tell them what would be successful or not. We can only assess what they provide us. And that would have been the advice given at the time.
Are there any further questions, Councillor Hobbs?
Is there a right of appeal either way?
So depending on the outcome today, there will be a notice of decision to either approve or refuse. And then there are objecting parties in this application. There are 4 objections to it. Both the applicant and the objectors have right of appeal to VCAT.
Right. Can I ask another question? So the caravans have been there since 2022. If we go with that officer recommendation and refuse the permit, how are we going to enforce Zoltan to move, and what's the likelihood of that site being cleaned up?
So I understand the question, but this is not relevant.
Yeah, the questions have to be relevant to the planning application we have before us.
So if we were to grant this, 4 objectors that we have had would be very entitled to object or appeal. Sorry,
It's
Bit irrelevant, really.
I'm happy to move a recommendation, Mr Mayor, if there's no more questions.
As recommended by the officers.
I'll have my own recommendation.
You have your own recommendation.
I have a
You
recommendation,
have your own motion then.
my own motion.
Can we hear the motion?
Okay, my motion is that council resolves to issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit for PA 1209 for the development of a dwelling and associated works at 47 to 55 Blair Street, Harrow, in accordance with the plans and documents submitted with the application. That's the first part of my motion. There is a second part which I'll introduce if this first part of the motion passes.
If you wish to have your motion broken down in separate parts, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Are you, if you get a seconder or if it passes?
No, if this passes, then I'll talk about a second part, which is that.
Right,
There's no point sort of
right.
spending a lot of time going through that
Yeah,
if the motion doesn't pass.
right.
Can we just say that it's been foreshadowed that the other possible conditions will be included then if this first part
Yeah.
of the motion is carried, okay? Okay, is there a seconder for that motion? Seconded by councillor Houlihan. Does the mover wish to speak?
I do indeed, Mr Mayor. I really believe that this has been an extremely difficult decision for council. I bear in mind that there is a potential, no matter which way this motion is voted, for an appeal to VCAT. And that disturbs me greatly because really as council we're somewhat in the middle, caught in the meat and the sandwich. I'm also aware that any decision by council today, either way, will be received with mixed emotions by the Harrow residents. Some people are quite happy for the development to go ahead and some people are concerned about it. And I guess no matter which way we vote, someone's not going to be happy. I'm also cognizant that at all times, council must carefully consider advice presented by officers through their reports and responses to questions. However, council is never obliged to accept officer recommendations. To do so would represent a breakdown in procedural fairness. This was the case in the City of Greater Geelong earlier this month, where council unanimously voted against a planning officer advice to refuse a development permit with objections relating to drainage and flooding and other issues. I'm also aware that councillors should always act in a manner that is fair, balanced and unbiased. Also recognising the need for empathy, as our actions and decisions can, in many cases, have very real and detrimental consequences. In this scenario, it's been my genuine intention to find an amicable and practical solution to a very complex building application. I'm also aware that the Glenelg Hopkins Catchment Management Authority is responsible for the integrated planning and coordination of land, water and biodiversity management across the catchment. It plays a role in advising on flood mitigation, supporting flood response and leading flood recovery programs where it has the resources to do so. However, in most cases, council is the final determining authority. This was demonstrated in the recent Warrnambool decision in June this year, where council abandoned a flood study after councillors decided they did not trust the data. Further in August, they went against the planning officer recommendation and advice of the Glenelg Hopkins CMA and unanimously approved an application for a single dwelling in a residential lot located within a land subject to inundation overlay. I've also considered the use of a Section 173 agreement to resolve this application impasse. However, council officers have advised that this is not an appropriate mechanism in this case. I've further considered the critical deficit of worker accommodation across our shire and the need to encourage more workers to reside locally and contribute to our community's prosperity. I've also noted that over the past 3 years, both the federal and state governments have prioritised the desperate need for low income and regular housing throughout metro, regional and rural areas. In considering all of the above, it's been, to me, a very difficult decision. However, as the proposed and very modest dwelling is to be constructed close to Blair Street and in a considerable distance from the main river course, minor riverine flooding would be unlikely to adversely affect the dwelling. Furthermore, the proposed fill pad constructed at or above the current level of the Harrow Hall should minimise any potential future inundation. It's also likely that the velocity of floodwaters in the vicinity of the proposed dwelling would be slower, with minimal erosion and debris bearing potential. Any future inundation of Harrow is most likely to be gradual, providing the applicant adequate time to safely vacate without placing additional evacuation demands on emergency services volunteers. By constructing a permanent dwelling, I expect the applicant will ensure the entire site is adequately maintained and any unnecessary materials removed, thereby addressing ongoing concerns raised by some residents. In conclusion, this application before us meets the purpose of the township zone. The land subject to inundation overlay does allow development subject to, I believe, the land subject to inundation overlay in cases does allow development subject to appropriate conditions. The applicant has reviewed and cited the June 2017 Harrow flood investigation in his application and demonstrated that slow rising water characteristics and compliance with flood level safety requirements. He's also responded to concerns raised by the Glenelg Hopkins CMA and modified his application accordingly. In conclusion, I'm satisfied that the proposal can be appropriately managed through standard permit conditions and that a planning permit for PA 1209 should be granted. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Second, I wish to speak.
Thank you. Just like to support what Richard has said. I won't go into it too much, but well said, accurately said. I think the big thing that people have got to remember here is this house has got to be built on the same level pad as the hall and the new police station. Maybe not quite as high as the new police station, but same thing, it's got to be on a pad. The hall, the new hall, has never had water in it. Got close once, but that was mismanagement by the CMA. Immediately got them to shut the wall. Water went down, hall never got flooded. So if they put it on the pad the same height as the hall, I believe that this house will not have flood problems. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Hobbs.
So, yes, I do want to begin by saying that this decision to support the application has not been easy. It's actually been incredibly stressful for the council staff, for the councillors, for the Harrow community, and most of all for the applicant. I think it's been very divisive for the small community of Harrow. And I would also like to acknowledge Councillor Tom Houlihan's persistence in trying to advocate for both the town and the applicant. So I haven't come to this position lightly. In fact, I've actually spent many hours researching how other councils have dealt with similar situations, including the Yarra City Council case, where the Referral Water Authority objected on the basis of extreme flood hazard and risk to life and safety. That matter went to VCAT and the tribunal recognised that flood risk can be managed, approving a 5-storey dwelling on flood affected land. I've actually watched all of the recordings of our own meetings and those of similar cases, and I've also considered the public commentary, which asks, what is the point of having planning officers if councillors just go against their advice? The answer is that officers provide professional assessment, but that councillors are required to make the final judgment, weighing technical advice alongside fairness, consequences, and the lived reality of our communities. If we refuse this application for a second time, after asking the applicant to resubmit with a dwelling raised above flood level on a fill pad, we must consider what happens next. The caravans will not disappear, in my opinion. The site will not be cleaned up. Council is likely to end up back in court. The town does not win, and neither does Alton and Sharon. So what I've actually tried to do is find the common ground. And in this case, that common ground is very clear. Both the town and the applicant want that site cleaned up. Everyone agrees that the current situation is unsightly and stressful. We also need to remember that during the 2022 flood, that applicant was living in a caravan on this site with water lapping at the door. And while flooding in Harrow is slow moving rather than fast flowing, this was an incredibly unsafe and unacceptable situation. But it does highlight something very important, and that is that the decisions we make around this table affect real people's lives. Today, it is 35 degrees. We will all go home to our air-conditioned houses and comfortable beds, and Zoltan and Sharon will return to a caravan with, if it is refused, with no clear pathway forward, despite owning residentially or township zone land and being employed and valued members of the agricultural workforce. So in my research, I did ask myself a simple question: does compassion have a place in planning decisions? I believe it does. Compassion does not mean ignoring risk. It means asking whether risk can be managed. I also note that in the 2017 flood report, whilst it was scientific, it was actually only adopted in the July 2024 meeting, and that Councillor Tom voted against its adoption. But I just think we need to keep some perspective. It's not a double-storey family house or a block of units. It's a small heritage-style dwelling consistent with the character of Harrow, located at the front of a block near the road, not the river, and is designed specifically to respond to flood conditions. So for me, approving the application is not about disregarding professional advice. It is about exercising our role as councillors with context, due diligence, and humanity. So for this reason, I'm going to be supporting the your motion, Richard.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I just want to clarify one point. I think the one sentence sort of mentioned was that we recommended that the design, what the design should look like. I think we just had a response that the planning team did not and cannot sort of recommend. So I just want to make that clear that the planning team never recommended what that design should look like.
Yeah, the phrase at the meet, sorry, it's right, correct, David. Sorry, the phrase at the meeting, because I did watch all those replays, was that we might consider this in some other form. That was actually the phrase.
Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Bretlove?
Oh, look, it's just like my fellow councillors, this is a really hard one. Unfortunately, I find it is a difficult one, and the fact that there are 2 overlays and we have a list of recommendations of why, of reasons, and they're all really based on the 2 overlays. I'm sure everyone in the room's read the points, and you know, the position and the assessment of the catchment authority. I find this hard to support. I don't. My concerns are probably not today and tomorrow, but once there is a dwelling built in that spot and we're going against a recommendation from our authorities, once we have a dwelling in that spot, it's not who's living there today and who we gave that to and whether there's the compassion and all of that. I feel our responsibility, our job as a councillor is to be a bit, we have to get above and be what's right going forward. I have concerns of the next owner of the house, and all of a sudden, the minute that this is granted, we lose all control of any of the stipulations, and I think that puts us in a dangerous spot. I'll be very interested where it goes. I don't think we're finished with it, whichever way it goes. I really can't see that at all. Someone's going to end up copping a big fine. It could be the ratepayers, it could be the applicant. Someone's going to cop it, and it's going to cost a lot of money because I can see it going to another level. For me, I believe to do my job properly with the information that I have at hand, you'll find out in a couple of minutes. It's a tough one, but I have to just put my hat on of why I'm sitting in this chair, and that's where I'll sit with this, unless someone convinces me differently. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bretlove. And I totally agree with what Councillor Bretlove has to say. We aren't giving this for one person for compassion reasons. We aren't doing it so they clean up their block. To do so, be accepting that we've been blackmailed, that we only give out planning permits to try and make things better. That makes no sense at all, even trying to express that. We have to think about who will be living here in the future, what the impacts will be. Saying that the floodwaters came up near the hall once before, well, we know the reservoir had a buffer at the time. One day that reservoir is going to be full again. We could get a big rain event. Who knows where the flood level will be? Well, the studies all tell us they'll be higher. The grounds for refusal are very sound. I think we need to be following the professional advice. And the only other thing I do have to say is, as the Mayor, I have an obligation under the Local Government Act to make sure all councillors are aware of their duties. Councillors have to have an open mind at all times. It is not a good look when you come here with prepared statements. You have to be prepared to consider all options and all things at all times. If this matter goes on further, we're going to get the name, we're going to be the new Winky Pop. So I think people need to consider that what they've been saying, what they're doing here. Does the mover wish to sum up?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I agree that councillors need to come to council meetings with an open mind. It's absolutely legal and encouraged, in fact, for councillors to not only research, but bring speaking notes and points to consider during a debate in council. Whether I've read my notes or not, you are presupposing my decision was previously made. For your interest, I may well have had a second set of notes that may have argued to the alternative. So I dispute your suggestion that some of us have come with preconceived ideas. Furthermore, in any house that you build, no one can really be sure who the next occupant might be. Really, I think that's pretty irrelevant. You build a house on a farm, who knows what's going to happen in 5 years or 10 years' time? Maybe you move, maybe the house gets burnt, maybe you go bankrupt. Who knows who's going to move into your house, your cottage, the old homestead that's 100 years old down the road? Whether the applicant and his family stay here for the next 100 years or for the next 5 years is really, I don't believe, something that should occupy a great deal of the time of a councillor in presupposing what might happen. What I do say in response is that this has been, I think, for everyone, a really difficult and in some ways quite a traumatic decision. It's not a decision and not a position I've taken lightly. And in my talking notes, not my pre-prepared speech, my talking notes, I did highlight the difficulties I've had in trying to assess this application. And I've also tried to cite previous cases that support or disprove the arguments provided. I do agree that there is some possibility that this will reappear, a little bit like a phoenix rising from the ashes or the floodwaters at VCAT or some other body. And I guess if my motion is approved, then that's a role that we as council have to accept, whether it's costing us or not. We are voted by the community to make decisions, weighing up what evidence and what information is provided to us at the time. I believe I've done that in making this motion. I'm very happy that to put forward my motion. And if it goes further, then we as a council will have to fight it jointly as a council, as is our requirement. A council decision, once a decision is made, becomes the decision of the whole council, whether before we take the vote, we are for it or against it. So in conclusion, you've heard my motion. I'm happy to read it out again if you're unclear. But I put my motion to the consideration of all 5 councillors, and be that decision as it may, and be the consequences as they may be. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Put a vote then. All in favour? All opposed? I'll call for a division. Again, a reminder, a division will allow you to change your vote. You don't have to vote the same. All in favour? Councillor Hicks, Councillor Hobbs, Councillor Houlihan. All opposed? Councillor Preclove, Councillor Meir.
I did whatever, but I had a second part if the first part was passed. Might I move on to that, Mr. Mayor?
You may.
Officers just prior to this meeting presented us with an addendum which basically lists the standard requirements that must be considered, must be upheld should the building permit be granted. I hope I don't have to read out the 2.5 pages, but I'll table it for those considerations and for the inclusion in the minutes. And my second part of the motion is that the officer recommendations as previously presented be approved.
Can I just hear the motion, the original motion, please? Richard, can you please read the original motion?
The
first part, the motion that's just been carried.
Right. The council resolves to issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit for PA 1209 for the development of a dwelling and associated works at 47 to 55 Blair Street, Harrow, in accordance with the plans and documents submitted with the application.
Okay, well, that would mean, because part 2 requires for amendment plans, that is contradictory to your motion, to part 1 of the motion.
Sorry, say that again.
As circulated here, it requires amendment plans to be submitted. Your motion that was just carried says that we are to accept the submitted plans. So it is contradictory, part 2, to what was just passed.
Okay, then we'll ignore that and stay with this. End of story. Next item.
I will allow a subsequent motion from anyone, or else we will move on to the next item.
How do I get a subsequent motion into this? Because I believe these need to be attached to.
I do
this.
too.
I think this is very, this, we can't take that back, that this has been approved. 3 people have voted for this. So I would like to move that these amended plans that were handed out or given to the councillors, I would like to see these amended plans attached to the motion that has been approved.
Tim saying you can't do that.
Well, item 1 on what was circulated calls for amendment plans.
Well,
Items
right.
2 and
Well,
further on do not.
Right, well, let's put this as an attachment. These from items 2 to item 14 to the motion.
That the following conditions
Apply to the
planning permit.
planning permit. From, am I missing anything with leaving out number 1? I would like to just amend this actually and get rid of the amended plans required and just put the whole lot to attach.
The problem is number 1 is contradictory to the motion that was just passed.
Right, well, we best go with number 2.
Oh, I see what your amended plans require. Well, why can't we just say the applicant is required?
To comply.
Just take out the amended plans require, just put the applicant is required. 1, before the development starts, plans must be approved.
But we have just moved a motion that we're accepting the plans that he's given us, and now we're asking for more detailed plans. So either we don't accept the plans that he's given us.
Well, I'll suggest, take Jodie's suggestion, just ignore point 1.
Yes, Brendan.
There's a risk in doing that because point 1 has a lot of details about the fill pad and the requirements to stabilise it and so on, which is a condition on the development. If you don't have it in there, you can build something that would be like a house of cards and fall over. So I'd urge council to have some conditions on the fill pad.
Where would that leave us in terms of liability as a council?
Just one question. Is the initial application had what we could call a concept design?
There was an extract in the report, which was pretty much a snippet.
Yep. Was a concept design. The conditions effectively ask for a detailed design.
Yeah.
Could it be argued that is an amended an amended plan or an amended design?
I think the wording of the first part of the motion just needs to be tweaked slightly to accept the second part as being the intent.
But the motion's just been debated and carried.
Can you now amend the first part?
They will need a notice of rescission.
Before we move to a notice of rescission, what is your suggested new resolution wording or motion wording?
You've got a resolution that says recommend a notice of decision to approve subject to the following conditions. Is that what you're saying? So
the council resolved to for development in accordance with
pretty much
part 2 attached.
Yes.
In accordance with.
This doesn't even have a title. What are we going to call this?
In accordance with the following conditions. And
In accordance with,
And leave number one in. Yeah.
and leave in
if
accordance
you're gonna
with
proceed.
the attached
Which is kind of contradictory.
conditions. Does that satisfy everyone? The council resolves in accordance with the attached conditions. And this thing we could, this is point 2. We're going to call it conditions.
Oh, I think you get straight into the condition.
Just that goes
Just
to that.
Just say the following, and then
Right.
you don't have to read them out, obviously, but as
To the, in accordance with the following. Are we happy with that before we rescind the first one? Because
Something needs to be attached because it's not going to work.
I'm going to have to adjourn the meeting and I'm going to have to discuss with David and the governance officer the proper procedure for how we can do this. We can just go to your office quickly.
Oh, dear.
Right, we'll resume the meeting. So consulting with the governance rules, to rescind a motion requires a notice of rescission. It has to be received in written form within 24 hours of the decision being made, and then it will be on the agenda for the next meeting. There is still the possibility to add in the other conditions, but not the non-contradictory one. It is in council's hands. I cannot move the motion. So
Are we allowed to ask questions?
you may.
Your first suggestion was, or your first comment was, that if we offer a motion of rescission, it has to be done within 24 hours. And that means that no council decision then can be made until the mid-February meeting.
That's correct. That until it's past the council meeting, no notice of termination can be made.
Mhm.
No action can be taken on this matter.
Right. If we don't rescind it, but we ignore a modified paragraph 1 of this, then we can add it.
I will allow a subsequent motion with further conditions.
What are the
What those-
conditions?
Well, it's up to you. They just cannot be contradictory to what's been passed, that's all.
Right. Well, how do we make part 1 non-contradictory?
My difficulty is I haven't seen, you've been reading it out, I haven't seen it. So what does part 1 say again?
Well, you wrote it.
No, your part 1.
That's
Part one of the
Yeah.
motion.
The motion that got
The
adopted,
wording in
because we
the
can't change that.
My motion says that we resolve to have the planning for the development of a dwelling at Harrow in accordance with the plans and documents submitted with the application.
And then this goes,
Full stop.
and then it's more to it.
No, that was full stop.
So can part 2 of that say, in reference to one above, and to, for completeness, the plans must include
The following.
the following elements.
But it says we're going to accept the submitted plans.
Does it actually say that, council is?
In accordance
In
with the
his-
plans and documents submitted with the application.
In Richard's motion, initial motion, it said that.
Yeah, so you've got that subject to the following amendments or something like that.
This is all referring to different details of the field pad.
If we cannot find a solution, I'm going to close debate and we'll move on.
Is there anything to say that this can't be added in February?
Well, out of today, if there's notice of decision, that starts the process. It's really, how do you get it?
So, yeah, so really, if points 2 onwards
Is okay.
is not contradictory, so that can be added.
Right. So what do we have to do here?
I think it's only a small part that's contradicting on the.
What
This is
happens if
just
we just take out that and just say plans must be prepared to the status? No, we've already done the plans. Just take out that whole section. Got 9/10 of it covered.
Right. Is there a subsequent motion?
And to do a decision can then add this in, can add that in later.
Or we add that in the February meeting.
Once the notice of termination's gone out, you can't add to it.
No.
So we either rescind the motion.
I'm not really very happy about rescinding the motion. And I said, well, who can rescind the motion?
Any councillor can put in a notice of rescission.
Well, obviously, you know, I would have thought that the 3 who passed the motion had the
Any councillor could submit a
Can
notice.
any
of rescission.
councillor put in a notice of rescission? Does it have to be seconded?
Yeah, there needs to be.
Does there have to be a reason given for the rescission? Okay,
You would have a preamble.
The notice should just be received within 1 day.
all right, well, I dare say, I guess exactly what's going to happen. And we'll see you back here around the same place in February.
If there's no
It's a
further,
very disappointing outcome, I must say, to have gone through all this drama and then at the last moment, when there was opportunity, whilst the discussion was on, to bring this idea to the table.
I think if a matter is this important and probably going to go to VCAT, it's probably important to have everything correct.
Well, we've already mentioned the possibility of going to VCAT. That's no surprise to any of us.
If there's no subsequent motions, we'll move on. The next item on the agenda,
Well, could I move that we rescind this motion?
But
Because
there's
I'll-
lacking.
Pardon?
it has to come.
It has to be in writing, right? Okay,
Notice of rescission.
right, let's leave it. Yeah, okay, I'll leave that in the hands of somebody else.
15.2, planning permit PA 1192, correction of permit conditions.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So this is a report regarding PO 1192, which is a development in Niver, known as Kelly Street. This report is to advise council of an administrative error. There was an omission identified after the council resolution for that permit. And some of the standard referral conditions relating to provision of power and water were inadvertently omitted from the recommendation. This report is brought to council to correct that omission by merely adding in those additional conditions. They aren't contradictory or anything. So the notice of decision hasn't gone out yet. This will correct that, and then we can proceed with the notice of decision.
Councillor Pretlow,
I'm happy to move
Second.
the officer recommendation.
moved as recommended, seconded by councillor Hicks. Is there any discussion required?
I don't think so. There's, obviously we had 1 to 11 was very lengthy, and now we're adding the 27, so.
This one seems to have a habit of returning a bit like a boomerang.
Anyway.
We'll put that to the vote. All in favour? That is carried. We have no items on the ceiling schedule. We have no late items of business. We now move to confidential. Anyone prepared to move the recommendation? Moved by councillor Pretlow. Anyone prepared to second it? I'll second it. Make the vote required. The vote, all in favour? That is carried. As we are now moving into confidential, we're going to ask the gallery to please leave us be for a short period of time. We'll still be here if you want to hang around and come back for a chat later, that'll be fine.